Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar event discussing some tips to reduce your energy use and information on the health impacts of residential energy. We are glad to have you all tuned in today to hear about this timely topic. In a moment, the panelists will present some great info and answer some of your questions. My name is Lori Adelson. I'm an attorney mediator and an American Lung Association board member and a committee person of the American Lung Association Sunset Soiree, which FPL has been an amazing sponsor over the years. I will also be moderating our session today. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping items to cover. Firstly, this webinar is being recorded and is streaming live on Facebook. Today's session is meant to be interactive, and we want to hear from you. To do this, please put your questions in the chat box for those of you tuning in via Zoom, and in the comment section for those of you tuning in on Facebook. Thank you to those who already sent in your questions. Our panelists will be answering them shortly. Finally, if we are unable to answer all of your questions, we will send out a follow-up email and answers. Facebook listeners, check the comments for instructions on how to send us your email to be included. And lastly, we'd like to thank Florida Power and Light Company for powering today's webinar, which is being hosted by the American Lung Association. So now I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. Panelist Brad Gore is the program manager for FPL's Home Energy Survey and Low-Income Weatherization Programs. FPL performs 100,000 plus home energy surveys annually. Prior to his position as program manager, Brad was the residential demand site marketing manager for FPL. Our panelist number two is Dr. Mark Hauser. Dr. Hauser serves as the current board chair for the American Lung Association of South Florida. He retired in 2023 from Baptist Health, and during his tenure there, Dr. Hauser was responsible for their system-wide approach to evidence-based care. He was also responsible for overseeing the organization's evidence-based clinical care committee, in addition to the case management, quality and accreditation operations, pharmacy operations, and various clinical committees and councils. So before we hop into our panel discussion, we have a quick video from FPL that illustrates their Energy Manager tool. It's a resource that allows residents to monitor and analyze home energy use so they can make informed decisions about how they use and conserve energy. Without further ado, we'll play that video for you and then jump into our panel discussion.
How can I save money on my energy bill? The solution starts with FPL's Energy Manager. This all-in-one toolbox allows you to see exactly how you're using energy, analyze that usage month over month, and experiment with different models that will calculate your potential savings based on how your home is consuming energy. First, take our short survey about your monthly energy usage. You can see a detailed breakdown of where your dollars are being spent at home based on your survey responses. Be sure to take a look at your energy dashboard. It gives you a detailed usage breakdown by month, week, day, and even hour. Not all appliances are created equal. Learn what individual appliances are costing you each month. Air conditioning simply becomes a way of life in Florida, and cooling can quickly become the biggest driver of your bill. Remember, the older your AC system is, the less efficient it is. FPL's smart tools will optimize all your household's energy usage with our energy simulator and appliance calculator. Save money on your energy bill with FPL's Energy Manager at your fingertips. Get started today.
So now that you have a better idea of the Energy Manager tool, I'm going to turn it over to our first panelist, Brad. Hello, Brad.
How are you?
I am well. Can you please expand on the Energy Manager tool we saw in the video? And could you share with the audience what those key factors are that drive up energy consumption throughout the month?
Absolutely. So the Energy Manager has been built based upon years and years and years of gathering information, of understanding where energy usage happens in each home, right? And the majority for us in Florida, we all know it's the AC, right? Cooling is a major driver, but we're all a little bit different. And so the energy manager, that's where it really helps us understanding specifically per our home where that energy use is going. It depends on, where you set your thermostat setting. It depends on if you have a pool pump, all of these different factors, especially now as we're aging. There's a lot of oxygen concentrators out there, and those use a lot of energy as well. So the idea was to build this tool so everybody can get a really good specific idea of where their energy use is going in their house.
Terrific. Thank you, Brad. So as we emerge from the sweltering summer and head into the holiday season, many individuals are struggling to strike a balance between comfort and energy conservation. Aside from the analyzer tool, what are some tangible ways that residents can maximize their efficiencies by making big or small changes to how they use their energy?
Yeah, so again, we're going to go back to cooling, right? So it is all about comfort, but we recommend that you set your thermostat at 78 during the hot months. That really helps keep your bill as low as possible. But if you're not comfortable with the 78 setting, and a lot of people aren't, well, then we would recommend that you use your use ceiling fans, things of that nature, to help keep you down. That evaporative effect really helps you with it. If you have a pool, the best thing you can do is lower the pool pump run rate from 8 hours a day to 6 hours a day. But of course, we always, say we recommend that you talk to your pool maintenance company to make sure that, you're getting the filtration that you need on it. A lot of people think that lights are the biggest driver. They are not. They're one of the smallest drivers of electric usage. So of course, every dollar counts. But the biggest thing that we have to help you manage your bill is really play with that thermostat, get it to the point where you're comfortable, but it's as high as it can possibly be.
Thank you. So along those lines, what is the most impactful changes that people can make today to be more energy efficient and save money?
Yeah, so there's two different camps on this, and they're both very impactful. One is capital. Replace your old AC system with a much more energy efficient one. Same thing if you're redoing your kitchen, make sure you get an Energy Star refrigerator, Energy Star, any appliance is going to help you, but that requires a bit of money. The other side is behavior, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's turning off your lights when you're not in the room. It's when you leave the house, set your thermostat to 82. And then when you get back home, you take the thermostat down. Behavior can have a major, major impact on your bill just by making slight modifications.
So what are some ways that consumers can adapt their home to being more energy efficient?
Like I said, when you're replacing appliances, make sure you go Energy Star. Obviously, LED lights, replacing those old incandescent lights. Another is making sure your weather stripping, caulking are really tight and sealed, right? You don't want to be air conditioning the outside with all that nice cool air blowing out. That doesn't make any sense. And conversely, in the winter, you don't want that cooler air coming in, especially in our panhandle area where it does get quite cold. And heating, it can be very expensive. So it's making sure that your house has got what we call a tight seal. Think of it as a cooler. If your cooler has a huge hole in it, it's not going to keep your beverages cold. It's the same thing with our house. So make sure you've got ceiling insulation that's up to speed, that all your windows and doors are sealed properly, and you'll save money.
That is great advice, Brett. Thank you so very much. We're going to now turn over to the conversation to Dr. Hauser. So the next set of questions I'm going to pose share the perspective of the health impacts of energy use. So Dr. Hauser, when it comes to the way we use energy in our homes, like combustion energy, how can that impact residents and children?
So thank you again for joining us today. And I hope I can shed some light on this issue. But Brad mentioned behaviors. And in addition to representing the South Florida ALA board, I'm also a lung specialist, a lung disease specialist. And for me, it's very important to point out that there are personal behaviors that are much more harmful to one's lungs than the important benefits discussed in this webinar. If you're smoking cigarettes, exposing others to secondhand smoke, which by the way can double the incidence of lung cancer in that group, or have allergies or asthma and have a pet to which you know you're allergic, or you're working in an industry with a substance to which you know you're sensitive, like a baker and flour, or some petroleum and other distillates and printing, for example, there is no filtering, masking, venting that will overcome that risk unless you have a chemotherapy hood, that you're working in, or like a level 3 viral lab protection. But if you're here, you're probably interested more in mitigating the other risks and doing your part to improve your home and public environment and slow global warming. So thank you for allowing me to do that little aside. As a lung doctor, if I don't mention smoking, I don't feel like I've done my job. So the appliances that we use for heating and cooking are never perfect. And obviously, if you're using wood or coal, there's a lot more emissions than if you're using gas or propane or natural gas. But we would never run a car in a garage that was closed or put a generator by an air conditioning air handler. So we have to think about that these devices are not perfect. The gas and the natural gas and propane are pretty good, and I will talk in a minute about a different way in which they cause a risk. So obviously, some of these things are vented to the outside, like furnaces and some water heaters and our clothes dryers. And that's a good situation, except of course, that contributes to all this outside air emissions and carbon dioxide and global warming. But unvented devices like stoves and gas fireplaces, which seem to be very clean, there's no smell from them, and have been shown to release substances that can cause worse airway symptoms and infections in children. And I was surprised about the amount of literature about nitrogen oxides, especially nitrogen dioxide, NO2. And if you're if you're a chemist in any way, you know that propane and natural gas are hydrocarbons. That's hydrogen and carbon. So where's the N coming from? These flames are so hot that they actually burn the air, which is 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen, right where the flame is, and produce these nitrogen compounds out of the air. So we're going to want to vent these devices to the outside whenever possible, so we don't expose our family members to those fumes.
So Dr. Hauser, so speaking of venting, I think the American Lung Association has a three-pronged approach. Do you know what that three-pronged approach, can you share what that three-pronged approach is with our participants?
Yes, the three prongs are personal protection. Do whatever you can to reduce your own. Change from a wood burning device to gas, vent the gas, make sure you have more efficient energy devices. And the second is called source reduction, meaning use the least amount of energy possible so that the universe has less pollutants and less greenhouse gases produced. And the final is, we don't know as much as we need to about the impact of the gases that are these emissions from our homes and businesses into the general environment. One estimate is that 13% of the global warming gases comes from residential and commercial use of energy. So we need to know more as well.
Additional research is always very important. So tell us, what are some of the immediate steps you can take to reduce your risk from exposure to harmful pollutants in your home from combustion energy use?
So there's quite a few. One is I have a gas stove, don't tell FP&L, in two different homes. And I have the gas company check it every year. And if you have a good gas company, you're going to want to check it. I mean, not only for pollutants, but for safety, for, combustion safety. If you have any type of flame in your house, install carbon monoxide monitors. I mean, that goes without saying. Use ventilation, either hoods or, try to open windows if necessary. If you're having any kind of wood burning that you can't afford to do away with, you should probably, after COVID, there's all kinds of HEPA filter devices available that we never even thought of before. You can probably get a fairly efficient HEPA filter. But the best thing is obviously not to be wood burning as a habit. And of course, we also want to reduce the amount of energy we're using overall. There's limitations to our energy resources, and we certainly don't want to be using. We have 350 million people in the country, maybe 100 million households, businesses, a lot of heating and other energy use going on that's contributing. I know if you're in South Florida, where I usually am, I can't remember any other summers where it was 97 degrees every day.
Right. Terrific. So finally, what are some recommendations from the American Lung Association on using less energy at home?
I'm told that the usual kilowatt hour use is about 12,000 for a 2,000 square foot home. Even though we're using clean electricity, somebody's generating that electricity. They're either burning a fossil fuel or they're using some nuclear device that generates some type of nuclear waste, right? So it's not perfect. So things that the Lung Association talks about is what Brad said. Set your thermostat when you leave the house higher. You don't need to cool the house as much. You leave it to a point where it dehumidifies. You don't get mold and mildew that we worry about in South Florida. And then turn it up when you get home. Or even better, get one of these programmable devices. They're awesome. That thing can turn off and turn on 30 minutes after you get back, before you get back to the house. So Nest makes an awesome programmable thermostat that I use in one of my houses. So turn off the lights. I mean, this is not as big an issue as some of the other, as cooling in South Florida, but clearly we want to use LED lights instead of incandescent bulbs. The fact that the bulb gets hot means the energy is being used to heat the bulb instead of to light your house. I mean, why would we want to do that when they're available? A little bit more expensive, but a definite good. I mean, I think the estimate is about $20 a month change from incandescent to LED bulbs. So I think that's a no-brainer. Insulation in South Florida, weather stripping, making sure, again, you're not cooling the street, and try to choose energy efficient appliances. There's a couple of different labels that are put on appliances. One is Energy Star and the other is Energy Guide. That'll let you know where on the scale of energy efficient devices, when you replace yours, you should be purchasing.
Are there websites that people can go to find out about energy efficient appliances?
I believe it's energy.gov, energy saver / shopping appliances and electronics. So I'm sure if you Google energy .gov energy saver, you'll find that.
And you mentioned the Energy Star label. What exactly is that?
So the Energy Star products exceed minimal federal standards by a substantial amount, and the Energy Guide label helps you figure out whether an appliance is energy efficient. The federal government requires most appliances display the bright yellow and black Energy Guide label. These labels will not show which appliance is the most efficient. They will show you the annual energy consumption, and you can make comparisons.
Well, that is terrific information. And I guess overall, there are ways, as Brad mentioned, and so have you, to lower our consumption of energy in our homes and minimize the risks of air pollution on lung health. What would you say is the number one way, if we all had to do one thing that we could do to help minimize the risks and lower our energy consumption in our homes?
Change from wood burning or coal devices. I had the opportunity to visit China, and throat sore every day from the pollutants in the air. Their older neighborhoods are all heated with coal burning devices. It's really a huge amount of, you can really make a huge amount of community emissions that way. So I would say,
thank you, Dr. Hauser. This has been so enlightening. We're going to open up, we're going to wrap up this first part of the discussion, and we're going to shift to some of our audience questions that just came in. So if Brad would like to join us, I'm going to actually ask him the same last question that I asked you. Brad, what are the most important takeaways you would like our audience to walk away with today about how we can lower our energy consumption and maximize our health and wellness?
Yeah, so look what Dr. Hauser said. It's a combination of lots of things. You don't have to go crazy big, right? The fact that FPL, we're not burning coal here in Florida, but there are things that we can do, from tightening the home to, and Dr. Hauser made a great point about the smart thermostats. That is the easiest way to, manage your AC usage, right? You set it and you forget it, and it'll know. You can geofence it, so when you hit that geofence, once your car crosses it, it'll start cooling your home. I mean, lots of nice things to do with that. But then there's like minor things you can do. Like, we've all had kids that leave the refrigerator door open, right, when they're searching for things. Close it. And all of those things. And he mentioned, if it's lighting, if it's on, it's either heating or it's drawing energy. Another big user we didn't talk about, is called the always on category. And that's growing by leaps and bounds because of electronics, all the gaming, all of those things. If it's glowing, it's using electricity, right?
Well, that's a great point, Brad, because we just had a question from a participant who said, how much energy can we save by unplugging electronics and appliances when not in use?
Yeah, so and it all depends on the appliance, right? But and each one isn't drawing a lot, but they add up. It's a cumulative effect. So, we recommend, like on your TVs and things like that, there are smart plugs that you can use. So, you don't want to unplug. It's just kind of a pain to reset that clock all the time. But there are these really cool smart plugs that you plug that in, and it will. They work. So and they're not that expensive.
So, but how long does it take to complete the Energizer Analyzer survey?
The Energy Manager. So it takes maybe 2 to 4 minutes, right? I mean, there's a basic section, and then there's a more advanced section. The thing is, the more questions you answer, the more specific we can get to your house to understand your energy usage. And then when you do that, on the video, you saw the energy simulator. Once you take the survey, then you go to the energy simulator and you can say, all right, I set my thermostat at 74. If I set it to 78, what happens? And it'll show you how much you'll save.
And how do we learn more about the tools and resources that FPL offers online?
I'm sorry?
How do we learn more about the tools and resources that FPL offers online?
If you go to fpl.com, you can go there, and then there's also programs, right? So we have rebate programs to help you if you need to replace your AC system. We'll offer rebates on that. We have rebates to help you with the ceiling insulation. And then we have all these other resources, top 10 tips, all these things that we could to just help you lower your bill.
And I believe that link is www.fpl.com. Save lower bill is one link that you can get to in order to learn about reducing your energy output. What about just ask, just another question we have is why, it's interesting, why is energy efficiency important? And we've talked about energy efficiency this whole time, but let's see if we can wrap this up by talking about the importance of energy efficiency.
Well, Dr. Hauser mentioned it, and it is all about, look at, these are finite resources, number one. Number two, we have a global climate crisis. So we're burning all of these fuels, and they're adding to the CO2 and of our atmosphere. So the best thing we can do is not use it. But that's just not real, right? So the next after that is use it efficiently. Use it as efficiently as you possibly can.
Well, that is terrific, and Dr. Hauser, Brad, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. But for the questions that we were unable to get to, please make sure to send those to the email provided in the chat. You'll receive a response in the upcoming week or so with answers to your questions. I just want to thank everyone again today for attending American Lung Association's webinar event on Reduce Your Energy Maintenance Management Tips. And to learn more about all things clean air, to view our clean air reports, and for additional information on energy use, please visit lung.org. That's www.lung.org. Also, don't forget to follow the South Florida American Lung Association on Facebook for announcements regarding our next community connections and webinar events. Follow the ALA at LungSoFla, LUNGSOFLA for details. And also go to Florida Power and Light online and visit their website for energy saving tips on and the lung force for how to help with your health and your clean air. So thank you everyone for participating today, and we look forward to our continued community connections and our webinar events. Again, follow the ALA at LungSoFla for details. So have a great day, everyone, and we look forward to our next event.